What's indeed going on, Jerome's? Beautiful Wednesday. Birds are chirping and stuff. And it's actually like a high 56 here in the great state of Minnesota today. And we're going to go through and look at a gaggle of the Vikings in-house unrestricted free agents. So, we didn't list the restricted free agents like Blake Brandel, Nick Muse, etc., or exclusive rights guys, but unrestricted dudes, guys who could leave in free agency. We're going to take a look, and we're going to predict not only where they land, but how much of the money. There's going to be a lot of league minimums on this. But starting off at the top, Danielle, the real deal Hunter, now he reworked his deal where can't franchise tag him, can't tag and trade, can't do anything. And Danielle went out and had a career season, 16 and a half sacks, tied for the league lead with tackles for loss. And Danielle, he's only going to be 30 in October, still has probably 3-4 years of his prime left. Vikings have seen the value of a talisman on the edge, but I think that at a certain point the price may be too much, and Washington has the most cap space in the league. They have the number 2 overall pick. They gave up on Sweat. They gave up on Chase Young, and they have to replenish that edge, and I think Danielle Hunter gets himself paid 3 years, $75 million. And so we didn't put in guarantees because, I mean, the guarantee is a guarantee. So we'll say at 3 years, $75 million, $50 million guaranteed. Go ahead. But Danielle, it sucks. It sucks. I hate it, but now edge rusher is a major need for the Minnesota Vikings. Also, $14 million and change comes due as the void year dead cap hits come home to roost this year. Also on the edge, Marcus Davenport, Kwesi's folly. The 1 year, $13 million deal certainly did not work out. When he was healthy, he was good, but that's been the story about Marcus Davenport his entire career. But I don't think that the Vikings bring him back. He does leave $6.8 million dead on the cap in terms of void years, but Dallas league minimum. I would say Dallas, maybe Houston in terms of that. Maybe D'Amico Ryans is like, Mama, I can change him, but he's not getting paid. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, you're Marcus Davenport. So the Vikings, he does leave. Now, even though Danielle and Davenport do have void year contracts, they do factor into compensatory pick formula for 2025. So, yay. Cool. Next up, DJ Wanham. So, I mean, if Danielle leaves, Wanham would certainly be a priority, but I think Wanham had 8 sacks before he tore in his quad. He's going to be perfectly fine in all likelihood, and I think that he is going to get paid a little bit something. Heading back home to Carolina, he's a native of the area, went to South Carolina, and Carolina definitely needs help on the edge, especially if and when they lose Brian Burns. But 2 years, $12 million, some incentives tossed in there. I think that's a pretty fair deal for DJ Wanham. Next up, off-ball. So we're losing everyone. Next up, off-ball linebacker Jordan Hicks, who frankly had a career year, and that includes his time in Philadelphia when he was a dude, man. But I mean, Hicks filled in great in the Flores defense. He and Ivan Pace Jr. were a nice off-ball linebacker tandem, and I think that they do run it back. Hicks, 1 year, $3 million deal, so slightly above, well, actually like 2.5 times league minimum, but he gets taken care of. He's a true leader on that defense, and it's something important that the Vikings need to have carrying forward. Next up, KJ Osborn. So, love me some KJ, but last year, even with the JJ injury, you'd think that KJ would have stepped up, but he just really did not get it done. Frankly, I think Brandon Powell was a better asset towards the end of the season, but KJ does bring some skill to the table, and I think that he's in that high-end wide receiver 3 type area, and he's going home. So KJ Osborn grew up in Michigan, in Salanthi. I never say it right, but it's close to Detroit. And, I mean, Detroit sees what they're building. KJ's had some big-time plays against Detroit in the past. And now, I mean, Detroit, frankly, should go after T. Higgins, which would be really gross. But Amon-Ra is a stud. KJ can add a little something to that mix as well as help in the return game. So 2 years, $8 million, and KJ, fortunately, goes to the enemy. Mm-hmm. Again, can we freaking keep anyone on this thing? Next up, Dalton Reisner. Yeesh. So Reisner signed a prorated 1 year deal. last year in the middle of the season, took over for Ezra Cleveland after he got traded to Jacksonville. So Reisner, I mean, he loves it here. Chris Cooper loves him here, and the locker room, like he really ingrained himself and ingratiated himself very quickly. So 3 years, $18 million, $6 million per year would be a hell of a deal for Dalton Reisner in this spot. And also, I mean, the fact that you're not re-signing Hunter or Davenport or Wanham, does free up a little bit of cap space. So the Vikings take care of them, and also frees up cap space to go after L'Jarius Sneed, to go after Christian Wilkins. Hell, maybe go after Brian Burns. I don't know. Who knows, man? Oli Udoh, Kansas City league minimum. I don't know. I don't know. Like Oli, they brought back last year on a pretty premium backup deal, and unfortunately he tore his quad against the Eagles. But I think the Vikings are going to look for some new blood at certain spots along the offensive line, and Oli seeking out greener pastures. Why not link up with Kansas City? Go ahead. Greg Joseph. So Joseph is going to be 29, and I mean, he had some down moments. He had some good moments as well, but I think that he would be back. But with competition, Vikings probably bring in another UDFA kicker just like last year. But 1 year, let's say $2 million deal with some incentives, push that thing up to $3 million. With kickers, I mean, if you don't have Justin Tucker, every single year it should be year to year, because you never know which guy's going to show up. Josh Dobbs. Now, we said this before. If the Vikings make a move for, say, a Jaden Daniels or a Drake May, a guy who's going to be a dual-threat quarterback, Josh Dobbs would make more sense as his backup. And, Dobbs, with a full offseason, maybe he could improve as a pocket passer. Who knows? But Dobbs going to Indianapolis, 1 year, $6 million deal, going to back up Anthony Richardson. I think Shane Steichen could do some great things with the Passionate. And Gardner Minshew is a free agent and probably played his way into a little bit of money. Maybe he gets the sort of the Baker Mayfield type deal like Baker had in Tampa Bay last offseason. So the Colts are in need of a new backup quarterback, and Dobbs does fit the bill there. Cam Akers, who unfortunately popped his Achilles for the second time, even though he looked good after coming over in a trade from the Rams, free agent. And see what happens there. And I think he's a guy that maybe bides his time. Maybe there's an injury in camp or in season, and finds himself a spot once he proves that Achilles is fully healthy. I'm rooting for him. I do like Cam Akers, but we'll see. Chris Reed, a little bit older, but the pride of Mankato State University does have some utility as a backup offensive lineman back at the league minimum, nothing guaranteed. Jonathan Bullard. So Bullard doesn't really bring much to the pass rush, but he is decent against the run, and as well as providing some depth at that four-tech spot. So Bullard back on the league minimum deal. Brandon Powell, I need him. So Brandon Powell as the wide receiver 3 in this spot. KJ Osborn leaving for Detroit, but Powell back a 2 years, $5 million deal. And there should be a proviso. No tush pushes. Like, Powell should request that in his contract. Johnny Munt. So Johnny Munt basically took over as the receiving tight end after Hockenson went down. It wasn't Josh Oliver, who remained in his blocking tight end 2 role. So with Hawkinson's health up in the air, frankly, I think Johnny Munt might have himself a little bit of leverage in this spot. So he's able to eke out a little bit more than the league minimum. He sticks with Phillips and O'Connell, 2 years, $4 million. Linebacker Anthony Barr. Hey, remember when Barr came back? It was just crazy, man. I mean, last year was nuts. But after Hicks went down, Barr was brought back. I don't see him running it back with the Vikings, so I think he becomes a free agent and probably doesn't have any takers and eventually goes off into retirement. Austin Schlutman, David Quisenberry. So Schlutman has been a long-time backup, rolled with Chris Cooper and company back in Denver. I do like him as a backup center. As well as he can back up the guard spots as well. Is he a starter? No. But also, if the Vikings want to have a facelift on the interior offensive line, Schlutman, he isn't a power guy, but he fits what they want to do at this point in time. Quisenberry was fantastic last year, man. Filling in for Darisaw, filling in for Brian O'Neill, the cancer survivor. Loved his story coming out from the Texans. He is a little bit longer in the tooth, but as a swing backup tackle, our version of Rashad Hill, I kind of like it. Man. Speaking of Houston, jumping James Lynch, the pride of Baylor, heading back to Tejas. I think he's from Nebraska. Really doesn't matter. But Houston, league minimum. So he inks up with D'Amico Ryan's going to get things done. Hopefully he re-jump starts his career. Because I was like James Lynch Frankly, I feel like the move to the 3-4 would have benefited him, but it couldn't get the time of day, and also he couldn't stay healthy. It's unfortunate. Troy Dye. So Troy Dye, 4th-round pick. Remember, when the Vikings had the 4-3 with Zimmer, I mean, Troy Dye was the de facto third linebacker after Eric Wilson left in free agency. So it was Barr, it was Kendricks, it was Troy Dye. He's not a starter, but he did turn himself into one of the better special teams players in the league. I would love to have him back. Might take a little bit more than the league minimum, but in terms of off-ball linebacker depth, in terms of special teams notoriety, yes, bring him back. And lastly, so we saved the best for last. Kirk Cousins, 35, going to be 36 in October, coming off that Achilles. And all the rumors and conjectures, it's going to take 2 years, $45 million, or 2 years, $90 million, $45 per year, and it's about the guarantee. It's about this, and the Vikings can make it work. If Kirk Cousins leaves, it's $28.5 million dead on the 2024 cap from the void years, taking your lumps now and moving on with life. But if given the choice, I would bring him back, but also if Kirk can get crazy money elsewhere, I would not necessarily blame him. And in the back of my mind, I feel like this honestly is an option. I feel like Kirk Cousins could go to the Patriots. Now, Belichick is gone, and if Belichick had gotten the Falcons job, I think that would have made a ton of sense. But in terms of the Northeast, in terms of Kirk avoiding New York, which would be kind of funny, in terms of Robert Kraft wanting stability at the quarterback position, obviously it did not work out with Mac Jones. But remember, Robert Kraft was the guy who gave Drew Bledsoe that $100 million deal right before they drafted Tom Brady. And he and Brady had that relationship. Cousins, even though he's a little bit older, could he get the Patriots through a couple of seasons as they rebuild that roster under Gerard Mayo? Yes, I think he certainly could. They also have the cap space. And even though they have the number 3 overall pick, let's say Williams and Mayer off the board, maybe they're not enamored with Jaden Daniels. And Daniels, Jaden Daniels and his style, in like those cold nor'easter winters, I'm not sure. So maybe they go a different direction. Maybe they draft Marvin Harrison Jr. Maybe they throw the money, and they have plenty of cap space. Maybe they throw it at Kirk Cousins, so he provides stability for 2-3 seasons. And also you got freaking Marvin Harrison Jr. I mean, something to think about. So I think that maybe the Vikings get priced out in this spot, and maybe other teams offer more than the Vikings can guarantee and offer more years than the Vikings want to do. So I think that certainly is within the realm of possibility. So that's it. Anyways, your thoughts are thoughts. In-house Vikings free agent predictions. It's all about the money. Let us know your thoughts and our thoughts in the comment section below. Subscribe for daily Vikings takes. Want to support the work? Put a little something in the Venmo. But till next time, Skol, production value.